What's up my dudes, it's Answer and today I'm here to do my June wrap up. I did not expect that I was going to film today, so here we are because I didn't want to study. Anyway, let's talk about the books I read in the month of June. I should probably count it before I started, but let's open up Goodreads real quick. In the month of June, I read about 12 books, which 2 of them were kind of graphic novels, so technically they were really short. The first book I read was Pride by Ibi Zoboi. This one I gave a 3.5 stars out of 5. Kind of like a Pride and Prejudice retelling. Okay, not retelling per se, but like it's kind of following around those type of characters. So we have Zuri Benitez, who is from Brooklyn, and she is for sure like a Brooklyn prideful person with Afro-Latino roots, and she's living with her huge family. So in this like little neighborhood that she's living in, most of the people are fairly middle class or poor, and one day these really wealthy people move in. Family kind of expect them to be white rich people, but they were actually not. They were a black family with 2 boys. Zuri's older sister Janae is kind of falling for the older boy. Zuri is trying really hard to even have a connection with Darius because they kind of hate each other for whatever reason, and they're sort of rude to each other. We have these 4 sisters and the bond that they are kind of sharing with each other. That's just such a real relationship. It was really nicely done. I like that. The 4 sisters were really loud and very wild, and it was just really nice to see that on paper. Well, I was listening to it on audiobook, so it was great to listen to. Zuri is really close to going into college, so she has the whole college application process that she's also doing. She's trying really hard because she wants to change the place that she's living in and make it a lot better than it is. It also talks about sexual assault in here, so you might want to keep that in mind. In my opinion, the romance was not necessary at all. Like, I know it's supposed to be a Pride and Prejudice retelling sort of, and the characters are supposed to like each other or whatever, but it was really not necessary and I could have done without it, but it was still a good book. The next one I read was The Bells by Danielle Clayton. I loved it. It was so good. It was so good. Okay, so this one I gave a 4.5 stars out of 5. The premise of the story is just really unique, and I don't think I've ever seen something like this before. We're in kind of a dystopian world where we have these women called the Bells. So in this world that we're living in, we have these people who are all gray, like they do not have any tint to their body whatsoever. And we have the Bells who can kind of give them plastic surgery sort of, but it's like magic, and they can give them color. So whatever color that these people want to turn into, they could do that. That's what the Bells do. There's only a few Bells in this particular world, and they are all kind of related to each other in some way, and these Bells are put into a situation where they are competing against each other to be the queen's chosen one. So once the Bells are the chosen one, they will be working under the queen. We have Camellia, our main character, who really wants to be the chosen one or the favorite. But once Camellia kind of figures out what the favorites are supposed to be like, she realizes really quickly that it's not as nice as it seems to be. So Camellia realizes quickly that her powers are not just what is seen on the outside, and it's supposed to be much more powerful, and she kind of explores the whole situation. We have a really sinister princess in here. I don't want to say too much about that character because I don't want to spoil you guys. Camellia is trying to save the land of Orleans from disaster, I guess, and also trying to save all the Bells around her as well. There's a lot of secrecy, there's a lot of just people who are very entitled, and it is just so good. It is so good. It's so much fun. I really enjoyed it. This is technically not going in order of reading, but I also did read The Everlasting Rose, which is the second book. I think it's supposed to be a trilogy because I saw a 3rd book was supposed to be there on Goodreads. I'm not sure if it's a trilogy or not. I read The Everlasting Rose towards the end of the month as well, which I gave another 4.5 stars. It had good character development, but I felt like it was a little lagging, like it dragged a lot unnecessarily in my opinion, but it was still a fun book. Definitely I would highly recommend you guys to pick this one up. Okay, so going back, I read The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This one I did not like the audiobook for. I just felt like the narrator was very monotonous and she was reading everything like this. Why? I don't know. I just found her very irritating. Like throughout the entire book, every single character that she was reading from, it just felt like she was actually reading it and not narrating it, and I felt like I would have done a better job. Okay, that was kind of rude. But you know what I mean? I just did not like that narrator, at least the one that I listened to. I don't know if it's the same for all platforms, but the one that I listened to did not like her. But anyway, that's not the point of this. It still didn't take away from the whole story that I read. I still gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it. So the wedding day falls around this black woman named Alexa, who is a very smart lawyer, and she's going to visit her sister in a hotel. And she gets stuck in an elevator with this white man named Drew. While they were stuck in the elevator, they kind of really quickly talk about how Drew is going for a wedding of his ex-girlfriend and how he really does not want to be there, but you know, he's still going, and he's also a groomsman. They end up making a pact to go to this wedding together. They go to this date, and Drew actually lives in Los Angeles, so he has to fly, and it's kind of like a long distance thing. They end up actually meeting each other a couple more times, and they hit it off quite a lot, so it's like a really cutesy story. I really liked it. So she's a lawyer and he's a doctor, so they're like really high up there with the profession. A nice long distance relationship kind of a story, and I really like that it was also a long distance thing because your girl feels that. Next up was an arc from NetGalley. It was Pride and Prejudice. It is actually a children's book technically, and I really just ran through it pretty quickly. It has a few pictures here and there with the characters and whatnot. The pictures were cute. The story, it was fine. I've not actually ever read Pride and Prejudice, so reading it in a perspective for kids was fun. It was a fine book. I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna say that I hated it or anything, so I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Also, that's coming out on August 9th of 2020. It's Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, obviously, and also Gemma Barder. Yeah, so maybe keep an eye out for that if you're looking for like a children's book, but also Pride and Prejudice. Next one I read was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I freaking love this book. It is so good. We have a young girl from Harlem who is trying to discover herself. I forget what her roots were, but Xiomara Batista was about 16 or so, and she is very mature. Like, she has big boobs essentially, and so people really think it's okay to hit on her, and it obviously happens a lot. Even when people know that you're underage, people almost sexualize you. That's really shown in here. Xiomara's mother is a very Christian lady, and she does not like the fact that Xiomara is getting hit on and treats Xiomara like she's a slut. And it's obviously not Xiomara's fault. She's not asking for it, but it's happening to her. And her mother does not want her to ever be in a relationship. She kind of wants Xiomara to be a nun, but Xiomara is questioning her Christianity. She's also questioning what her entire belief system is, and she's trying to figure out herself through slam poetry. And from her school, she has this whole slam poetry club thing, and they're going to go and do like an open slam poetry night thingy somewhere else, and Xiomara takes part in it, and she's just like pretty wonderful. The whole book is told in that kind of a poetry sense. It is very like lyrical, and it's just beautifully written. I cried reading how Xiomara was treated by her mother. It was quite devastating to me personally. There was a cute little romance between her and Aman, a guy from her bio class who is very like shy and whatever, and then like they really hit it off. And Xiomara really does not know how to deal with it because, like I mentioned earlier, her mother would pretty much skin her alive. And Xiomara also has a twin brother who I'm pretty sure is gay. And of course, being in a Christian family with Xiomara's mother, that is like a hell no situation, and her brother is definitely going to get in trouble if they figure it out. But yeah, it was a really nicely done book. The next one I read was My Calamity Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brodi, Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. This is the third book to the Lady Janie's trilogy, I think. This is the last book. I feel like there are more books. I heard someone actually say this. There are more books in this kind of a series, but it's not following any more Janes, but it's still written by these authors in this kind of a time period. This is like a historical comedy, and we're following around this girl called Jane. And we're in like a Wild West situation, and Calamity Jane is a very good shooter, and also she's good with I forgot what it was called, honestly. Okay, anyway, we have Jane. She's in part with this Wild West show. She's working with Frank and Bill. Frank is the pistol prince, so he's a very good sharpshooter. We are also introduced to Annie, who is another sharpshooter, but we're in a historical time period where women are not technically supposed to be like really cool with these things, so people are shocked at the fact that she's also a sharpshooter, and she's actually much better than Frank even. We're following around this world where these characters, where our Wild West show characters, are actually guru hunters. So I don't know if this is a known fact, but guru is actually werewolves. I didn't know that, but I kind of figured it out once I was like reading it, but okay. I don't know if I'm just uneducated or whatever, but so these characters, Jane, Frank, and Bill, are actually guru hunters. They've been hunting guru for a really long time. And then Annie comes by and kind of joins the whole Wild West situation. Also, Jane gets herself into a hairy situation, if you know what I mean, and she's trying to figure out how to deal with it. It's just a very funny story. That's basically it. It's a good laugh if you're looking for it. The whole series is like that because I personally really enjoyed it and I would highly recommend it. Next up, I kind of DNF'd this book at 57%. I was really not getting into it, unfortunately. I really tried hard, but it was just not for me. And it was Uprooted by Naomi Novik. A lot of people have really loved it. They've loved the story and they love the other books that Naomi Novik has written. So maybe I would enjoy something else, but this was just not for me. Again, like I said, I did DNF it. I give it 3 stars because I did read 57% of it and I feel like I could give somewhat of a rating, and I did give it a 3 stars. So we're following around this character called the Dragon, who is like a very ancient creature person thing. Nobody really knows what he actually is. Every so often the dragon comes to their village and actually takes a girl with him to his little tower place, and nobody really hears of them for a few years. And once these girls return to their village, they're not what they used to be, and they end up actually leaving the village as well. So we have Agnieszka, who's just very almost like a mousy type of a girl who is very like shelled as a person, and she does not expect to get chosen because she has a really close friend of hers who's much prettier than her, who's much smarter than her, and the entire village expects her to be chosen, but everyone's just still getting prepared to be chosen as well. So Agnieszka knows for a fact that her friend is going to get chosen and it's not going to be her. But in the end, she does get chosen and she gets into the lair of the dragon. There's supposed to be like a cool magic system thing where there are trees that are eating away humans or whatever. And it's quite weird. I don't know. I did not get into it, unfortunately. I really did not love it. So that's that. Next one I read was Aurora Burning, which is the second book to the Aurora cycle series trilogy. I don't know what it is, but anyway, it is by Amie, Kaufmann, and Kristoff. I gave this a 4.5 stars out of 5. This one, I actually read Aurora Rising last month. I'll also leave that linked if you want to know more in-depth thoughts on that book. This one has better character development and a lot of disastrous events that happen, but it was just really fun to read it. Again, highly recommend the audiobook because it's a full cast and it's just really well done. Each character has their own little quirks to them, and it's really fun to read from each character. It's really nice. I really liked it. It is a sci-fi, so it's pretty good. Next one I read was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I honestly read this because Tammy has been talking about this for the longest time, and I don't know how to function as a human being. What have you done? In mid 20th century China, where like a war was going on, it's a very grim, dark fantasy. It's supposed to be based on the Second Sino-Japanese War. We have our main character Rin, who aced the Keiju, which is like a huge exam thing, which not a lot of people actually pass in the first place, and it's a very nerve-wracking exam. And I feel that I have an exam on Friday, but like, nobody's studying for it. It's fine. Rin is actually a war orphan, and nobody really expects her to even pass the exam in the first place, not even to like excel in it and ace it. She goes into this like school or an academy called the Synagogue, and she has like 4 or 5 years of training in that place. So Rin thinks that she's going to be perfectly alright because she obviously aced the test, and she thinks that people are going to be fair to her because she passed it. But obviously people are extremely cruel because she's from the south and people hate her. She, like I said, is a dark-skinned peasant girl, and she does not fit in with very white-skinned people in that place. And she's also one of the only 3 girls in her school year, I think. She tries to explore her different abilities through her kind of crazy instructor who teaches her a lot, and Rin quickly learns that gods who are thought to be dead are definitely not, and they're very much alive, and they can be walking around in the world. Nikara Empire is supposed to be very peaceful at this point, and it has been for a while, but then the Federation of the Mugen actually are very close by, ready to attack, and they do. So Rin figures out her shamanic powers, and she basically uses it to her advantage to help to win this war. Winning the war might just be a really good thing, or it could cost Rin's humanity. And oh my god, it was just so much. Yeah, at first I was like, okay, it's not so gory, like I could deal with it, it's fine, like you know, a little bit of blood here and there. It's totally cool. And then we hit chapter 21, which people said you cannot be prepared for. And you're right, you cannot be prepared for that chapter because you literally want to puke reading that chapter. And yeah, it was something. I will definitely be taking a break from reading the Dragon Republic for a little time because my brain cannot deal with so much gore. It was a wonderful book. I have actually never read such a great grim dark fantasy in a very, very long time that I really enjoyed as well. It was a definite 5 out of 5 stars, but I just know that I can't handle it as a person to read the rest of the books right now. Well, I think only the second book is out right now and the third is coming out soon, but I know I can't deal with it. So I'm just gonna hold off on it for a little while longer, but I will definitely read it soon. But I loved it, but I kind of hate Tammy right now, so man, it was so dark. I can't, wow, it was, wow. Because yeah, chapter 21 will mess you up for sure. Then I almost stopped listening to it because I was like, no, stop. Yeah, it's fine, I'm fine. Oh shit, I forgot about this. I read EverAfter by Olivia Vieweg. It was a NetGalley arc that I got, and it is a comic book. I did have an ER call that I will leave linked here, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I will leave it linked in the cards and down below for you to check it out if you're interested. I didn't really like it. I gave it a 1.5 stars. I was confused for the most part. And the artwork was fine. There was zombies involved and it was just a confusing story. And I did not like the twists and turns that it took. I didn't like it. We're gonna move on. We're not talking about that. It's fine. The last one I wanted to talk about is Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. I honestly finished reading this just because it was very short. On my Kindle, it was like a 5-hour read. I read like 50% of it and I was like, it's only like 2 more hours, 1 more hour, 30 minutes is fine. And I finished the whole book. I didn't like it, unfortunately. We're in this world where Cinderella has been dead for 200 years and we have our main character, Sophia. I believe she is a black character and she's also a lesbian because she's definitely not interested in men and she likes her best friend, Erin, who is a woman. In this world, King Manfred wants every single girl of a certain age to be chosen at a ball that happens every single year. If you don't get chosen for 3 times in a row, like 3 years in a row, if you don't get chosen, you are kicked out of the system and you're probably executed. We're not really sure what happens to the people who don't actually meet the requirements. So Sophia is obviously in love with her best friend Erin and that can't happen. So Sophia goes to this ball. She ends up escaping and going to this mausoleum where she finds Constance, who is the only living heir of the Cinderella family. So what I feel like the author tried to do with this is try to explore a ton of different topics. The main topics that she tried to explore was homophobia and sexism. She tried to include all of those in here, but I felt like it was not enough time to explore everything. It's just like poof, 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 here we go. All of these things that you want to explore, here you take it. And it's like, it was too much. I didn't really like that she put everything like that. We have our main interests that Sophia has, and I feel like Sophia was just a very fickle character, and like she was very self-centered. Like, the first time she meets another woman that could potentially be interested in her that was not Erin, she's like, I love you. And I'm just like, bitch, what the fuck? How? You, what? Like you were still like talking about or thinking about Erin so much, and then suddenly it's like the first person I meet, I'm in love with. And I'm just like, why? That is just, oh man. We have sexism where all the men are treating women like shit. And it's like almost normalized in this world, and we're trying to see like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. And it's just, yeah, I didn't like the book, unfortunately. It felt like it had a lot of potential, but I personally didn't like it. Again, it was an arc that I got from NetGalley, and I did not like it, unfortunately, but it's coming out on July the 7th, I think. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely check it out, but it was just not for me. I felt like I read a lot of different types of books, and I really enjoyed most of them. Some of them really destroyed me, aka the Poppy War, and it's fine, I'm okay. probably will never be, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm still not over chapter 21, man. If you're new here, click my face over there to subscribe, and also I have 2 of my previous videos linked on the side over there, so click on those to watch those. Also, let me know down below if you've read any of these books that I mentioned or any of the books that you were super excited about reading in the month of June. But yeah, that is everything from me. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you all next time with another one. Until then, I'll talk to you all in the comments. Bye!